Hello everybody, so thanks for listening to another one of these videos. I like to do these because we can all have a bit of fun and stuff with the Lorne saga, of course, that's a big part of it, but I always try and look at it from a more, what can we learn, because what can we learn from his plight? Everybody gets something different out of it. That's what makes it all so interesting, the Lorne thing. But of course, I kind of like it's like a human interest case study for me mainly. That's the main draw. It's like, so what is it? I think the thing I remember back to when I first saw the footage, and I think it was the not the great part of me that reveled in seeing this guy lose everything on the spot. Part of it obviously is because of the crime that he's committed. But as I've talked about before, there's this kind of Schadenfreude thing, where you do take pleasure in someone else's demise. It's a flaw in the human character. But of course, people will write it off as being, I'm glad he sees justice, blah 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 blah. But of course, to see him in that position, and confess his love, and then get shot down. Well, not shot down, metaphorically speaking, but guns pointed at him, and to sort of, I remember, I know, like, not bringing into question his character, which turned out to be crap. But I remember when Nathaniel Trevor wrote a piece on the old Church of Cobb website. And he put something on there that really stuck in my mind, and he said it's not possible for a human being to fail as much as he had, and it's always stuck with me, that, and it's something that there's a certain amount of truth in that, because if you think about his plight and where he is, there's all this debate about he's kind of a pervert, but there's a high amount of evidence out there that he's never popped his cherry, so to speak. And everything he's ever done has failed. And I always try and look at it. It's like from a personal point of view, I've learned a lot through doing all this. What I've talked about in these Lornography life lesson videos before. I know it's not for everybody, because I'm talking about my sort of core beliefs and things that drive me. I'm always on an a quest for self-improvement. I think you've got to have something to aim for. It doesn't really matter, just goals, and like, you don't have to be super ambitious. You just got to have, even if it's something to look forward to, a personal achievement, something authentic, not how much beer can I drink tonight? I'm going to down 12 pints or some shit like that. It's got to be something true that's going to benefit you. And there's so many temptations out there now in the world of, like, devilry is something that actualize. If you want to check it out, there's a YouTube channel called actualize.org. It's not for everybody, but he kind of refers to temptations and the way people act in little things that are not quite on the ball as devilry. It's part of the human condition. We're all part of the same entity. Lorne is another aspect of ourselves, whether we want to admit it or not. You've got to ask yourself, if you was born as Lorne, what would you have done? It's too easy to look at someone who's failed as spectacularly as what he has and just immediately point the finger and say, I'd never do anything like that because I'm a good person. Well, yeah, you might be, but you've no idea what it would be like to have the conditions imposed on you that he did. He's obviously, there's different ways of looking at it, of course. He's always had the option to do the best, to write the right thing. He's continually got all these team of people around him and whatnot to try and snap him out of it. But his mind, he's so stubborn, and his mind structures, he can't break free of it. He has to want to, and he doesn't. It's easier to blame everybody else than it is to go on this quest of personal improvement. And sort of the reason that at the moment, I don't drink apart from on holiday, which is like, I don't know, 4 times a year. Um, I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't eat meat. I don't watch crap. I know it's easy. Everybody would probably say that because they're not going to watch crap. But I don't. I don't sit down and watch. I don't binge watch series. If I watch anything, it's mainly documentaries. I read. I'm not trying to say, look at me. I'm just telling you why I think the sort of life that I like to do, to live. But the reason that I'm on that kind of journey, I work out incredibly hard. I travel a lot. I'm always wanting to learn. I feel like it's a waste if I've not learned something throughout the day. I do my job and then I come home and I read something and like when I'm not, I'm pretty lucky because I get to go to the gym at work. So I'll go in the morning and I'll do what I need to do, make sure there's nothing urgent that needs sorting out. And as long as I've got no appointments or anything or specific things like that, I'll go to the gym. I'll do an hour and a half about each day on a certain muscle group, and then I'll have my protein hit, which is always and then I'll do my work, come home, maybe do some meditation, read things like that, and then if I want to do a bit of escapism, maybe I'll do a Lorne video or have a bit of a laugh and watch some of the videos or whatever. There's nothing wrong with any of that as long as you kind of look at it from the right aspect and it doesn't take over your life too much. It's nice to have little hobbies and interests, and this is a really fascinating interest. There's so much that it can cover, and we're going to do that in some videos soon. I'm not sure when the next one will be, but we've got some really interesting things to go over. And there's the people that have a bit more fun with it than I will do and approach it from more of the comedy angle, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. Each to their own. I'd like to, I've not lost my sense of humour from going on this, what might be considered a boring kind of... If someone had said to me a few years ago, you won't eat meat, you won't drink, and this, that, and the other, I'd be like, you're talking out your ass, pal. You know what I mean? I remember saying to someone about a few years ago when I was at work, and we were chatting, and I said, if I couldn't drink, I'd fucking die, as if life wouldn't be worth living. It's just amazing now how I think, from my personal perspective, where I am at the minute, generally speaking, what a waste of time drinking is. Like, it's nice to have a bit of fun, but you waste the next day, which is a complete write-off. Just think of like the productive things you could be having and doing and stuff like that. I suppose it's just growing up, really, isn't it? There's nothing specifically wrong with it. You can't judge somebody else because they do something different. Everybody's got their own path. But anyway, I've digressed for about 10 minutes before I've got to the heart of what I wanted to talk about. One of the things that kind of really hit me when I went to Maine was how beautiful the area is where Lorne lives. I mean, you see the picture on your screen now, which is his, might be his place or not, if you get what I'm saying. And driving through that area in Canaan, and we stayed in a motel in Canaan, and I mean, it's very isolated, but it's absolutely beautiful. There is miles and miles of unspoiled wooded areas, and greenery that goes on forever, and you've got these rivers, and you've just got so much beautiful areas to explore. You can drive a little bit and go into the town. There's a few isolated bars here and there. It's absolutely beautiful around there, and it kind of made me think what Lorne has got to be grateful for. Look at the kind of the area where he is. Where I live in Manchester is not. I mean, I suppose many people might say this about where they live. It's comparing it to a place like that. from an aesthetical point of view, it's not even. It just doesn't even compare. Manchester is a very industrial, grey, dull area, really, with little unspoiled areas. There's some beautiful parts of England. Luckily for me, about a mile and a half from where I live, there's a small lake with some really nice areas surrounding it. I spend a lot of time there, especially when the weather's nice. And it's one of the things I want to talk about the thing I want to talk about is gratitude. So in other words, Lorne's got all this to be grateful for, all the beautiful area he lives in, a country, a part of the world which is untouched by warfare and all that kind of thing. Is relatively, in a country where you're relatively, I'm not sure about the economics of each state, but if you compare it to a lot of other countries, you get well looked after. The thing is about being grateful. It's easy for me to go into America and drive through these unspoiled, beautiful areas and go, he's an idiot and he should be grateful. He should be grateful. Being grateful and gratitude for the things that you have is the cornerstone for a high quality, happy life. Without gratitude for the things you've got, you will get fucking nowhere. Doesn't matter how much money you've got. Doesn't matter how much sex you get or material possessions or whatever. If you are not grateful for the things that you have, forget it. Success. You could gain success depending on what your interpretation of success is. I don't see success as a shitload of money unless your being is built on a solid foundation. So I know someone who chases money and has a new car every month, and I look into his eyes and he's not even remotely happy. I can see straight fucking through him. He's chasing the next one night stand continually, needs a bigger house, needs another car, never satisfied, never got enough, gets a girlfriend, not happy with that one, wants another one, gets caught sleeping around, on drugs all the time. I understand what his mindset is, but that's not a basis for abundance. If you are grounded in gratitude for the things that are important, the love that you have in your life, and there will always be something to be grateful for. But like I said, it's easy for me to sort of go into Maine and say it's beautiful, which it is, and then have a go at Lorne for not being grateful. From his perspective, that's all he knows at the minute. So it's a little bit like if you were born into enormous wealth and that's all you'd ever known, you wouldn't be grateful for it unless you was brought up in a really good way and your parents were incredibly wise and made sure that you knew, 100% what goes on in the world. There's all these people that are born into enormous wealth who end up getting depressed. Some kill themselves. Some just fucking go off the rails and take drugs. I was reading about some Arab prince who ended up killing himself because he's born into this wealth and he tried this, didn't work out. He tried that and it didn't work out. Ended up killing himself from an overdose. It's tragic. So from Lorne's point of view, let's try and slip into his mindset, as crazy as that might be. What does he have? Can he see the things he's grateful for? Well, from his perspective at the minute, he can't, because he's so caught up in his own rage. He's like a spider that's basically spun a web. He's caught up in his own web. And he's cursing around and he's struggling and he's blaming everything around him. He's blaming the room. He's blaming the government. He's blaming everything apart from him. He doesn't really understand. It's like the key thing, as we know, is responsibility for Lorne. Responsibility, gratitude, it all goes hand in hand. He's not... he can't take responsibility, so he doesn't. He gets more and more frustrated because he's not working through the things that he should do. If something goes wrong, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter who you think is responsible. there's only you that's going to solve the problem. But with regard to his gratitude, he can't, because he's so caught up in this rage and this anger. Just think about what he's up to now. No doubt, the transcripts are out there now. I think a few people have read them, which is cool. And his rant that he went on in court, which we were, privileged to see, which was, one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. It's all somebody else's fault. It's not him. And the problem with him now, he can't be grateful for the things that he's got to be grateful for, because he's got himself into that much mess in his life that he can't see the wood for the trees, So it's like he just can't slip into that mode of being grateful and appreciating what he's got. It's like, let's just say he came out now, right? Came out of prison. Let's just fast forward to January and he gets out, yeah? He's a registered sex offender. He doesn't have any friends. He's got a history of failure. He's got a history of catfishing. He's got a history of abusing, of being a bad person. So if he's done wrong to virtually everybody in every situation. This has been highlighted in all of the stuff that's gone on. He's just not, from the human level that is generally considered what is good and bad. He's a bad person. He's very selfish. He doesn't really care about anybody else. It's all about him and his own immediate needs, basic needs, and that's what predators do. They basically, they're like, I was talking to someone the other. He's like a serpent, isn't he? That's always got his tongue out, seeking his prey. He's got the heat vision on. It's like, oh right, where's my next prey? He doesn't think outside the box about, and alcohol. I've talked about that before. That's not helpful for somebody in his position. Alcohol's good if you want to have a bit of fun. Personally, I think you can have, I don't want to rattle on about that. I don't want to, it's not fair to the people that enjoy a drink. I won't drink now again until I go on holiday in January. But I will drink every night for 2 weeks when I'm over there, because it's a bit of fun and I want to enjoy myself. So I get it. But in his position, it's self-destructive. If you're not in a good place and you're drinking to avoid things, then obviously, you don't. It's obviously quite well known about that. But so if he gets out, what's he got to be grateful for? Besides all the challenges that he's got, he won't have a job. He won't have anywhere specific to live. He's got no savings. His family won't help him out. He's in a bad spot, isn't he? It's like, let's just say that was a normal person who'd woke up and some twist of fate, it wasn't, they weren't guilty of those offences, and just try and get out of your head that it's Lorne, yeah? Just think about somebody in that position. Registered sex offender, no money, terrible past, reputation destroyed, humiliated, no... very few happy memories, one would suggest, over the last 10, 20 years. One thing that always makes me smile is I think back to the things I've done over the last few years, and, I've fucked up, as most of us do. I've made some mistakes, and, but that's part of the journey and that. But I think back to some of the memories that I've got and the places I've been, and spending time with friends and whatnot, and the various little romances I've had here and there and all that kind of stuff, and it's like it just makes it worthwhile, and I just think it gives me a little smile. I think that was fucking cool. Even looking back to the, when I went to the States a few weeks ago, it was a great trip for me, to go to a country I'd never been to before and meet a load of people that I'd never met, and just kind of, it was just a great mini adventure with so much to take from. Them are the things that you need to do. You need to balance working hard. You need to work hard. I've mentioned that in one of the other videos. You're not going to get anywhere. Reward yourself when you've worked hard. You know, I'm now until the end of until mid-January, and I'm going on holiday. You know, I intensely exercise at least 6 days a week, maybe 1 day off. And when I give myself 1 day off, I feel guilty. You know, I eat my eating. I don't have any junk food at all. Like, I don't have any. All raw foods, fruit, vegetables. I think I have like one chocolate a night from a box of this Belgium chocolates I've got. And I even feel guilty. Well, I don't feel guilty, but I don't. You know, it's kind of a nice little treat. But I'm going to be like working very hard. I like to be in shape. I like to look good. I take pride in my appearance. I love clothes. That's my failing. I don't spend a lot of money on shit. You know, shit food and, you know, buying. I don't know what most people spend money on. I don't know really, but the only thing I really spend a lot of money on is clothes. That's my sort of failing, if you will. I love to look good. I love my leather jackets and you know, t-shirts and shoes, and I just love stuff like that. So that's kind of my thing that I treat myself on. But apart from that, you know, I don't waste much money on unnecessary crap like You know, I've got a phone and you know, my little earbuds for work and stuff, and I suppose books, clothes. Saying that, I'm getting another tattoo on Sunday. That's like 200 quid. But, you know, it's like I said, I like to look good. It's purely a vanity thing. As long as you're totally aware of it, I don't think it's particularly bad. But I've got a lot of work to do at work. Like, I've got loads of like stuff that I've got to get through in the next few months. It's you know, it's a tough job. It can be difficult, but I'm in a good position. I've worked hard to get where I've got. So in other words, I'm going to work fucking ridiculously hard. You know, I've got responsibilities at home and stuff like that, as most of us do. And then in January, when I go on my holiday, I am going to have 2 weeks of non-stop partying and fun. I've got it all planned out. I'm going to have the best time, and that's my reward. And that, you know, that's kind of them are the things you've got to do, and the sort of basis for that. Even though I've got so many demons, I've got demons that I've got to battle with every day. But it's those demons that are making me go on this journey of self-improvement. It's like someone made a comment on one of my videos a couple of months ago about, like, you know, how I've grown as I don't really see myself as a content creator. Listen, I'm grateful for the YouTube thing that I do. I've never, and that's not to demean anybody that likes listening to this stuff, but I've never took it 100% seriously, because really all I do is make videos about predators and Lorne Armstrong. It's not like I see some of the other videos out there, and the amount of time and effort that they put into the editing, I've just not got the motivation to do that high quality editing and this, that and the other and that, because I'm not interested in making a career out of it. So I don't. But it was nice that someone said they'd noticed that I'd grown as a content creator and a person. I don't want to mention that person's name because I don't want to embarrass them, but they'll know who it is, and I do thank them for that comment. And you know, that kind of means a lot to me. It doesn't really. I'm not really interested in. It's nice to get nice comments, yeah, but I'm not interested in attention specifically. You know, I could put out, I could do a video a day and this, that and the other, and you know, there's so much Lorne material you could do it forever. But it's important to me now that I balance having a bit of a laugh, and that the streams that I do with Shin, and Tiffany's been joining us on a lot. It's important that to me that we get into the meat of the bone as deep as possible and really explore as deep as possible that you know, can we get to the bottom of exactly what it is that's wrong with Lorne? Exactly can we nail it? Because we're all like, can't quite figure out why we like it so much, and we can't quite understand how someone can be so stupid. It's like, can we figure it out? It's like there's a spiritual reason for it, there's a psychological reason, you know. And I was saying, it's kind of my demons that are driving me forward in a way, but it's created this need to be better, and not from a egotistical point of view. I mean, you've got to have something to aim for, and you've got to grow, and you've got to push your boundaries all the time, because if you don't, life will push those boundaries for you. You will get some kind of illness or some kind of disaster will, and that's not because the universe is cruel. It's just because the purpose of us being here is to expand our consciousness or grow, or whatever, however you want to word it, whether that is through intense exercise, whether that's through a relationship where you've got to grow that way. Whatever it is, you've got to push your boundaries. You've got to do it in an authentic way, and you've got to try and give something back at the same time. So if everything that you do is all motivated by self-serving reasons, if everything you do is all like Lorne, everything that he does, everything is all selfish. Everything that he does, he's no interest really in helping anybody. It's all motivated by himself. And it's like, a good question that I like to ask people when I slip into conversation to get a good idea about the kind of person they are. And it's a question that everybody loves to answer, is what would you do if you won the lottery? And we have like the Euro Millions over here. And the other week it was like 169 million, and I bought one ticket, and I like to throw it at people every now and again, especially like new people. I don't need to ask my friends because I'm very careful about who I call my friends, and I wouldn't hang about with them if they were fucking idiots. So, but ask them what they would do with that money. And if the first word is out of the mouth is I, it usually means that they're not an arsehole, but you got to be a bit like, oh, hang on a minute, you're a bit of a... And I'm not just... It'd be very easy for me to, to say, now, actually, I give all my money to children. Well, I'd actually like, buying Lamborghinis and buying my own island and a gold house and a rocket car, Simpsons reference there, would have absolutely no interest to me whatsoever fucking ever. Like, I would, it's just not. That money would go to other people. There's no interest in my own. I've got all I need now. I've got as long as I've got enough to maintain where I live, to be healthy, and to go on holidays and have many adventures. I know I've got a reasonably secure, as long as I don't get fired, a reasonably secure, touch wood, financial future. I don't need anything grandiose, but there's nothing wrong with chasing those things. Nothing wrong. Play around in the world. It's fantastic. But why would I need millions and millions? Just think of all the people out there that would need that help. And the job that I do, I'm kind of lucky in that it's not. I'm able to hopefully make a difference. Hopefully like make the world. Well, I'm not changing the fucking world, but of course it's nice. You've got two kinds of people in the world: them that take and them that give. And Lorne's one that's always taken. And he will continue unless something massive happens. So, if you look at Lorne, and what would he have to be grateful for? So, I was saying before is like, imagine if you get out, what would you do with the burdens that he's got? How could you possibly be grateful? Well, he's breathing, he's alive. Some people would say that's not a burden, that's a curse. Now, it's understandable, and it's part of the human condition at the moment when mental health is so rife, and suicides in England are up for men from a certain age are at an all-time high because of the pressures of people with, to live what might be considered a successful life. The pressures are enormous. And it's really difficult for people, and there's more people dying and turning to drink and drugs and getting addicted to social media and Netflix. There's some fucking great stuff on Netflix, isn't there? You know what I mean? Like, amazing documentaries. It's 90% shite, if you're honest. There's 90, if not I'd probably say 96, 97% shite that is not going to enrich your life in any fucking way. You watch something And then, oh, that were all right. But really, what have you done with your time there? Really? You say entertaining, you need to relax. I get that. But there's many, many better things to do than relax. You know, go for a walk in nature, listen to some beautiful music, be creative, meditation, things like that. But there's also some fucking good stuff, some brilliant documentaries, you know, some stuff like Breaking Bad. It's like, I'm not really into binge watching anymore, but I'm such a fan of that show. It's like every now and again something comes along which is a fantastic piece of art that should be watched by everybody. It's like saying, you know, all these art lovers say, you have to look at the Mona Lisa, blah, 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 or whatever. You know, some other fantastic piece of art. TV, it's just, you know, it's another form of art. Things like that, I would say, it's kind of like everybody could get something out of that. I went watching the Terminator movie with my mate last night, and because, you know, Terminator 2 is one of my more favourite. I grew up with those films. It's fucking one of the greatest films ever made, and you know, we went watching it, and he's an even bigger geek than me, this lad, and I stopped watching Breaking Bad after season 4. It was shit. I was like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was like, what? You know. Anyway, I digress. But anyway, as I was saying, Netflix has got the potential to suck you in and waste all your days, and people literally binge watch it and watch this after the other, and just wasting your days and not doing anything productive, and spending, you know, you'll go out to the pub and chat shit with someone, and then the day after you'll nurse your hangover watching shite on Netflix. You could do better. But like, so Lorne is alive. You could, if you looked at it from the right aspect, you could look at that as a positive and say, right, okay, live in the moment, which is incredibly difficult to do if you've got a heavy sense of past. If things have gone, what you believe has gone wrong, it's difficult to get over that, and I still struggle with that. And it's like, but you've got to, it's all about discipline, mental discipline, and how much do you want to stop suffering. We've all got a choice. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Suffering requires dwelling on the pain mentally, labeling it, judging it, constantly running over things in your head, you know, replaying things that could have gone better. You'd have to live in the moment and say, right, okay, things have been shit. What can I do to be a better person? You know, what have I got? You know, write down what I've got to be grateful for. Number one, I'm healthy. He's a healthy person. He's got 2 arms. He's got 2 legs. He's got eyes, ears, and they all work. So he can do his music. He can do photography. He could go hunting, because it's a fantastic hunting area around there. We were speaking to people in Skohagen, and it was fascinating to me to hear people and how they live their life in such a different area. It was such an enriching experience for me. And you know, their part of their everyday life and culture is hunting. You could do that. I'm not going to touch upon the rights and wrongs of it. I've got for another time. Well, it's not for another Lorne video, of course. But so we can say, right, okay, I could do my music. I could still hunt. I can learn another skill. I can go. I could go fishing because of the rivers around there that are beautiful, and I could start making things. I mean, he tries to be a bit constructive every now and again, but he's so fixated on his own basic needs of finding this girl and whatnot that's never going to happen, and you know, this egotistical mind structures that he's created about how he's been wrong. So he's not going to do that. But of course, he has his health is the number one thing to be grateful for. When my friend had a stroke last year, and he said, "You've no idea how grateful you should be just to have perfect health, or to be able to do all these things. It's only when it's taken away that you realise what you've got." And that's what causes a lot of people's gratitude, is when something's gone. then you appreciate what you had, and until it's gone, you don't really realize it at all. You don't. It's like today. I was at work. I think it was today, and there was like I just sat. I had some file work to do, and I was just sat there at the computer on my little desk, and I've got like this little packet of like seeds that I munch on every now and again and I have my earpods and I listen to some piano music, so I don't, and I sat there doing this work, and I'm pretty much my own, I get left to my own devices and I can plan my own day, and I'd already been in gym and I had, a nice view from the right side of my window. I was listening to this jazz music, and I was thinking, and I just remember having this feeling of gratitude and appreciation wash over. I was like, fucking hell, you know what? I'm doing a job I enjoy for something that's actually, hopefully, I believe, is, constructive at least. I'm listening to this music. I'm surrounded by amazing technology. I'm going back to a place where there's more food than I can eat. I've got all these, friends and interests and things to be doing. I was just like, fucking hell. And I'm going on this fantastic holiday. I was like, I'm blessed. Do you know what I mean? I might be feeling like shit in 2 days if something goes wrong. It happens, we have our bad moments. But I just remember thinking, fucking hell. I hope it doesn't come across like I'm being like big-headed or anything. It's like, oh, look what I've got. But it's just how I'm feeling. Of course, there's more, there's shitloads of people listening to this that earn more than I do and probably have a better quality of life than me. It's just about being grateful for what you've got. One of the things that well, actually, no, I don't want to do certain things I don't want to go into. But I've got burdens in my life like we all do. Even, it's like my hero's Noel Gallagher, right? I look at, he was born from a similar background to me. He came, I wasn't born in a council estate, but he was. And, his mum and dad didn't have a pot to piss in. And they lived in a really poor area of Manchester, which I've been to. And, and when he was, he learned the guitar and that, and he was watching people on the TV like David Bowie, and he was like, I'd love to do that. But he never really thought about it. His mum brought him up the right way. So his mind was healthy, and he had abundance in that way, and that he felt that family unit and whatnot. And when he was first getting the band going, he wasn't doing it because he hated what he was doing, and he hated, I want to get away from Manchester and I can be better. It came from a true place. He said, like, the band were first playing in Manchester, he said he loved the fact that he was playing music. It didn't matter. People would say, like, to him, what's your band called? And he'd say Oasis, and they go, I've never fucking heard of them. And he's like, well, okay, well, that's fine, but, we're playing music, and we're enjoying it. That's all that matters. And they did that, and they did it for the love of the music, and they were happy with where they were, and they got signed, and they became one of the biggest bands that England's seen since the Beatles. And it was all about a fundamental gratitude that he had for himself, for what he was doing. It's about living in the moment. I get lost sometimes when I'm getting, I have moments in life where I'm down and things don't go well, and I'm thinking, shit, and I dwell on the past too much, and I get lost, and gratitude kind of disappears. But I always get back to it and try to, and appreciate what I've got. Which is, I've been through my first year of shit, as we all have, and that is something that Lorne has never. He's just not been able to grasp, has he? He's got all these. The thing is, what you got to remember, there's other things that you don't really appreciate. The fact that we live in a society where the justice system is set up in a way that it is. If Lorne had been uncovered for the crimes that he did 200, 300 years ago, he'd have probably been stoned to death or killed or something. Or, so just go back 500-600 years. You tried screwing a 13-year-old daughter, they'd fucking stone him to death. There'd be no justice. Be grateful for the time that you live in. He went into we saw him in court. The judge wanted him to reform. We live in a time where if you make the most fundamental error of trying to harm a child. Think about the crimes that he did. As I'm talking about, not trying to not get enraged by his behaviour. It's fucking terrible what he tried to do. It's just a terrible thing, trying to hurt a child in that way and having no regard for their safety when, as adults, we've got to look out for our children. And we live in a society where the judge wants him to reform. I saw the genuine compassion come from that. If you can call it compassion. He wanted him to. He said, "Good luck, Mr. Armstrong." Listen, I could be the most naive man in the world, but my impression and my perception was he wanted him to reform. He doesn't want to send people down and them to live in eternal damnation. I see the comments in some of the videos where people go, "I hope Pete rots." I get it, of course. I'm not saying, I get where that comes from, especially people who are parents. But we live in a society where people want him to get better. People want him to sort himself out. The society wants him to reform. He's a sex offender to protect the innocent. That's the main reason. It's not to punish him. It's not to fucking crucify him. It's to protect innocent. And that should always be paramount. He's secondary now. He's fucked up. It's tough shit. We live in a harsh world these days, right? Okay. So, okay. The innocent comes first. And if that means you get labelled for the rest of your life, so be it. As long as it protects innocent people. If you can prove that you've reformed, if you can prove that you've got better and that you're making conscious efforts, then maybe we can relax those laws, exactly like the judge said. No chance. But he actually wanted to get those conditions lifted, or at least shortened, when he showed complete contempt for those conditions. It's remarkable. So think about what he's got to be grateful for there. He's got to be grateful for a fact, but his arrogance blinds him to that. He's living in a time where he's committed the most terrible crime and he's being helped. He's got a team of he's got the sex offenders class, he's got Alcoholics Anonymous. Every problem that he's got, there's someone out there that can help him. Just think how amazing it is to live in a time like, go back through it. People whinge about the political systems and that. Of course, there's a lot. We're in the human civilization is in a constant state of development, and it's going to be bumpy. And you've got to take a step back and look at where we are on the grand scheme of things. And in the evolution of our species, we're at, it's where we've come in such a short space of time. It's like a speck of dust. It's nothing, it boggles them. Our minds can't imagine what society is going to be like in 1,000 years. We might have wiped each other out, who knows. But if you think about where we are now, in England, we have the National Health Service where, you fall in the road, people will generally help you out. You'll get picked up by a truck, get taken to a hospital, worked on until you're 100% better. And you're looked after immensely well by a team of very well-trained, genuinely empathetic people that will sort you out, that will help you. There are people in this country that have never worked a day in their life. I mean, I'm going off on one now, but it's not really relevant what happens in the UK. But in the US, where Lorne is, he thinks the justice system is his worst enemy, but really it's his greatest ally. It's trying to tell him, sort yourself out, but he won't do it. And that cornerstone of gratitude, he can't get. It's like I said, it's not. You've got to try and slip into his mindset to be understanding. If you truly understand why someone behaves like they do, it dispels all evil. But of course, that's something we can delve into another time with regard to his. It's very interesting. I find it fascinating, the darker aspect of human. I'll just put that screen on for you. You know what I'm like with all my spiritual stuff, but. So I mean, it's what So he's got his health. He's never going to look upon the justice system as being grateful for that, is he? The fact that the judge only gave him 6 months. I know, like Tiffany, who I do videos with, she was like well pissed off. Of course, she spoke to this guy. She knows him very well, and she's got some harsh judgments about him, which we're going to talk about in future videos. But so he's got the fact that he's got interests he can pursue. He's interested in music. You know, be grateful for that. Be grateful for being able to learn. Be grateful for the fact that you've now got freedom despite the horrendous thing that you did. Despite how selfish you were. And the way you treated people. And the way that you scammed an old couple. And the way that you continually showed disregard for other people, specifically women. You're still free. And you've still got a possibility to improve and get better. And work on it. And maybe, before you die, have something that you can be proud of. But is he going to do that? No. And it's all down to one thing, that there's that vital element is wanting to do better. This is what fascinates me. It's like, where does that spark come from? It comes from suffering. The only reason I've gone on this spiritual path, if you want to call it that, I don't really like calling it that, because it's too many, like, there's too much of a stigma attached to it, like some kind of hippie guy who sits in a field, like, you know, who refuses to wear shoes. It's fucking bullshit. All these light workers, like, fuck off. You know what you're talking about, man. You know, it's like, if you differentiate yourself from other people, it's like, I'm spiritual and you're not, then you're a fucking moron. You know, we're all the same. I'm no more or less spiritual than anybody else. I just like reading spiritual texts, and I believe it's given me some very important guidance. That's just, it's like, it's funny because I've probably mentioned it too much, but it seems like more people mention it than I do. It's like friends of mine go, you're always going on about that. No, I'm not. You actually mention it. You have a go at me for it more than I actually mention it. Anyway, so yeah, I've kind of gone off on one there, haven't I? It's been a longer video than I usually do. I know these are not everybody's cup of tea, but I do hope that you've enjoyed it. If you have, can you let me know, please? I'd really appreciate feedback on the stuff I talk about. Obviously, it's just something, you know, some people like putting these on in the background and whatnot. So any feedback's appreciated. I hope that you've maybe got something out of it, because that's the only reason I do these. You know, if nobody got something out of it, I wouldn't waste my time. So, yeah, guys, there's going to be some streams coming up soon. I'm not sure if it's going to be this weekend. I know the transcripts are out there. If you're not sure where they are, mention it in the comments and we'll sort it out. I'm sure we'll be able to get those to you. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, guys. And I will speak to you soon.